welcome back to the channel. I'm going to be doing some more work on the Ranger here. Got back from the Woodburn drag strip, did a few runs, and the best time I did on that was a 14:01. But that was just with base tune, so just stock Ford tune, and then street tires with no burnouts, so just a real basic run. Gonna try to get this tuned and get up there with drag tires and some launch control, and that's kind of what I got here, and we'll dive into that today. Install what's called the watt box. I'll show you a photo of that. But pretty much what this does is it's launch control, get a two-step, and then also flat foot shifting. If I ran the actual Mustang ECU, you could possibly hack into that and run it off of that. But as far as I know, the Ford Performance doesn't have that set up. So we're going to install this. That's going to allow us to set our launch RPM and also to do full throttle shifts without lifting, and it'll have a cut out there so we're not over revving. So got a clutch switch already installed, shoot some photos into that, and now I'm going to work on installing this. I think they say inside the patch compartment, so we'll find a place to stick this, run some wires and get working on that, and then maybe later in the video hopefully we'll get to some tuning and then maybe some drag racing with slicks and a full tune. So I got this ignition control box wired in, or installed I guess. Right here was the original computer for the Ranger, so a big open space there to the panel cover, so I figured it'd be a good place to mount this. Just screwed some self-tapping holes in there, secured it. Got the cable here that connects the computer, plenty of reach to get to the laptop, and then the wiring loom goes up and through the original grommet that I for the original wiring harness to the east to the engine. Right there, I drilled a 1/4-inch hole, ran that through. The two wires I kept inside were the black for the ground and the green which goes to your clutch pedal. Go outside here, grab the light. And we got the wires coming up here right next to the ECU and a whole bunch of extra running in. So I'll go grab the wiring diagram. So right there is the wiring diagram. I'll go ahead and put a screenshot in so it's a little bit easier to read. But pretty much on this wiring harness here, we got the orange and black, and that splices in line with the power going to the ignition coils. And let's see if we get a light in here. I already put in a Deutsch connector because I had to splice that in line for a tack adapter. So this will make it really easy. We won't have to do a bunch of soldering, but we'll end up doing like a three-way plug here. So we'll kind of route power through that into that, and so this be a plug setup we build for that. And then let's see, the yellow will tap in up here for I think the crankshaft position sensor, and then the blue will tap in. That's going to be the throttle pedal, not the actual throttle blade out here, because this one does have a electric throttle body. So I think we'll might reconsider where we tap in on the blue. I might pull that back inside or hook it up differently. But anyway, it's right here. It might just probably be just the easiest to tie in right there. But the next one, the green one, cruise control switch or clutch switch, I asked, hey, you know, I told him I'm not using factory Mustangs. All these instructions are for Mustang install. And I said, all right, what do I do to install one? And he sent me this diagram here, which it's not confusing to me, but it seems unnecessary. It's like a voltage divider. I don't see why you need that. And so I referenced there. Got the ground wire attached right here. There's an existing ground from the original ECU. Attached it right there. I guess that's some extra speaker wire. Went over here. I'll probably try to shoot a better photo in, but attached the green wire up there to my clutch pedal switch for the tie-in to the power. Did a Deutsch plug, well, had an existing Deutsch plug like I said before, but spliced in here. So we have power coming from the battery, goes to this red wire out to the ignition box, then comes back on the orange wire, goes to the tack adapter, and then comes back on this wire here and goes to the ignition coils. Next step are these two wires. We got the blue one for the accelerator pedal and then yellow for the sensor. Well, let's see, what that was, the crank position sensor. Tried referencing this wire diagram that they supplied. The problem is they're referencing the ECU plug, I believe, probably for a 5 liter. For the 2.3, it's a different pin out. So they need to update their wiring schematic on that. So pretty much I looked that one up, pin number 60 on that, and then I cross-referenced the circuit code, which was VE702, and that which is accelerator pedal position number 2, and that comes up to pin 54 on the 2.3. So we'll try to figure that one out. They're the same plug with just different pin out, and I don't know why they did that, but talk to Ford, they won't reply back to you. So that's center about 4 up, so we will try to figure that out here. Looks like a blue with the white stripe coming right through there. So I'm going to go ahead and unwrap this so we can tie back inside here, make it a little more clean looking. So I ran this back here, cleared off the electrical tape, and did a small splice into there. Hopefully this focuses and shows well. They had a recommendation in their instruction on how to splice a wire with wrapping around then soldering. I think that looks like crap, and also it's really hard to disconnect if you have to go back and disconnect something. Like for this instance here, if we wanted to pull this harness out, this here is on a separate wire going someplace else, so we'd most likely be the easiest way is just unsolder that. So what I just do is just strip off a little bit on the main wire we're tapping into with the razor blade, and then tin both of them and just do a little bit right in there and just touch it right in line. No wrap or anything like that. It's solid, not coming loose. Really, usually you're just relying on the solder joint, just kind of like a weld joint. So unless you're doing a really poor job soldering, there should be no issue with that come detached. Anyway, I'm going to put a little bit of electrical tape on there. If it was easy to unpin this, I would unpin it and just slide up some shrink tape or a shrink tube, T-shrink to go around that, but right now it's just going to be easy just to wrap that up in some electrical tape, but not a big glob, just a little bit to cover it up, and then we'll wrap the whole thing up and tuck it back in there. I think the yellow wire, I'll double check, but I think that ties into this one here, so that will be our next step. Alright, so next up is this crankshaft position sensor signal. Again, this one calls out a C175E with the pin 70. I looked that up for the C1551E, and we were looking for a VE711, and that comes in on pin 11, which is the crankshaft position sensor, and pin 11 right there. So we'll pull this over and see what we can find. It's looking for potentially a yellow wire with violet stripe. So if we look at this here, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and yep, that is a yellow wire with a violet stripe. So once again, we'll unwrap this a bit and then tap into that. So got that one all tapped in and all buttoned back up. Gonna go ahead and test this out, get it all set up before I finish it up, but we'll probably end up wrapping this into some of this convoluted tubing so it all looks nice. But that's it there. It wasn't too hard of an install as long as everything works. They didn't have instructions for 2.3, but that's probably because the factory Ecoboost Mustang never needs one of these. They have their own launch control. So anyway, we got it worked out. Gonna test it out, see how that works, and then hopefully we get some tuning done on this. So got this all hooked up. Did run into a bit of an issue with the clutch sensor. I did have to do the original wiring diagram. I'll put a photo of that and kind of what I ended up doing underneath there. But pretty much I tapped into power source for the buzzer. I don't know if you can hear that. But the buzzer right there, so that was a keyed 12 volt, went up and over, hit a resistor, and then into the clutch switch underneath there. And so now it reads good. So you can see this here. We hit read, and the clutch is up, and it's reading 5 volts. If we push the clutch down, read again, 0 volts down. Start this up, hit read. We can see the voltage, the clutch is up, and throttle position sensor. If we push it down, hit read. Alright, so in order to engage this, we'll show you open it up here. So we're gonna hit the clutch in and punch it. Do it again here. Alright, so I'm having another issue that I had before the clutch switch that I'll have to get figured out. Every time I hit launch control, we'll turn this off so you can hear me. Every time I hit launch control let off, and then hit it again, it unenables it. Anyway, right now it's 3500. Once we get to the track, we'll dial that in. So we got our tune from Tune Plus, at least a bass tune to start with. Gonna take this out and run it. Got the instructions right here. I'll see about putting a link in or a screenshot of that. But pretty much got the tune flashed onto the computer. Gonna go out and find a straight stretch of road and do a 3rd gear pull from 2500 RPM to red line and just mash down the throttle. And the whole time I'm doing that, we're gonna be data logging. Already got the data log parameters set up on the cob. So now we just need to go find our straight stretch and punch it and record it. I think we need to do that twice, and then we'll email that over to Tune Plus. They'll make their changes. I think the first one just kind of evaluate how things are working. It's not too radical, and then kind of see how the fuel is, quality of fuel and stuff like that. And so we'll start bumping our way up. They had a whole write-up and stuff like that, how it works on their website. So I think it's probably about like 4 iterations before you get your final one. So yeah, we'll go hit the first one and progress from there. 2500 RPM, start the data log. It's going, bring it up here to 2500 RPM, 3rd gear, and so I sent those data logs off to Tune Plus, and they got back to me and said that the fuel pressure, it was leaning out mid-range in the pull. So wanted to confirm with the fuel pressure that was working. So we're gonna go ahead and wire up this low pressure fuel sensor. It's been a month and still haven't got confirmation from Ford. Called them yesterday, and anyway, it's been an ongoing issue. So gonna go over wiring that up, and then also one thing they recommended was giving a full tank of gas. So that right now we're at a 1/4 tank, so that could be part of it. Is that if you're accelerating hard, it sloshes back, starving the fuel pump. So gonna go over wiring up this fuel pressure sensor, and then we'll go out and do another run, get the data log on that same tune, send that off, so then we can make sure everything's good before we start ramping it up. Alright, so we got this plug back off the ECU, and I talked about this in another video, but pretty much what it is this plug here running all the way, this here is the factory Mustang harness for the 2.3, and this here is the performance pack harness. And what it's missing is a wire from this plug here to this plug here to tell the ECU the signal for this low pressure fuel pressure sensor up here. And also looking at it more, it's also missing the signal for the oil pressure. So that's why I don't get any oil pressure reading. But anyway, we might touch back on that on a later date because it'd be nice to have an oil pressure sensor that works. Anyway, so I could have looped this all in through this loom, but that would have been a lot of dinking around to do that. So I kind of tucked it up underneath and taped it up. And so we got the end right here. And we got the crimp-on ends here. This one here is for the ECU, and then this one here is for what they call a hybrid. So this one has 2 different size plugs. I'll put the part number in of this one here, but this one here is for a CO connector, and it has their Molex connector, so if you want to find that out. And the Molex part number is 33012-2002. I'll put all this information in the description. But pretty much we got to crimp this on there, but we're not going to use this like a cheap Harbor Freight crimper. We got this guy here, which is actually for amp connectors, but I tested it out on one of these and actually looked like it did a decent crimp. So we're going to use that. It's the best tool we got right now for that. So we're going to crimp that on, and then we're going to insert it into here on pin 71. So I'll have to figure out which one it is on here, but first we'll get this crimped on there, and then we'll get it set in there. Well, I guess I'm wrong again. This one has 2 different size connectors, and the ones I got were for the larger one and not the smaller one. So what we're going to do right now to make it work is just bare off that wire and stick it in there and make a contact, and then later we'll have to get the right terminal fitting to go into that. Oh joy. So back out on the road to redo the data logging on this. Got a full tank of gas and got the low side fuel pressure working right now, treating right around 90 psi. So had the fuel pressure regulator set at 75, but that's off a gauge, so it could be off, or this could be off. But anyway, gonna get out here on a straight stretch, pull over, let traffic go by, and then do some runs. Alright, 3rd gear here, starting the data log. So, got a pretty quick response back and got a new tune loaded up. About ready to head out and test this one in data log. Start data logging, get up to 25. So just got the next revision on the tune. Sounds like this is kind of the last revision, just kind of final details and tweaks. Definitely will go over the data log to make sure. So that's kind of nice. It's be fun to see what it does at the strip. As far as noticeable power, my butt dyno's not that great, but definitely it pulls harder on the higher RPMs, past 5,000 RPM. It pulls all the way through. It would, if you look at the data log, you can see where it kind of drops down, boosts a little bit. So probably the stock turbo is running out of steam. Definitely another future upgrade. We'll ask Tune Plus to kind of give an estimate on what the power figures are for that sort of setup. And then our next step will be run the drag strip. Open the dump. Start the data log, let that get going here, and then bring it up to back here in the shop with the Ranger. Gonna take the drag slicks off and get this back set up for the road. Had a pretty good time on the strip. Best time, see here, was a 12:53 at 109.5 miles an hour. Got a stack of time slips here. Did pretty good. Definitely room for improvement. Hopefully later this year we end up getting an NX2 turbo and a tune on E30, and hopefully getting the Levens, not that far away from that. Other interesting thing is I data logged on the Cobb access port on my fastest run. I happened to data log on that, and that was pretty interesting and showed definitely some area for improvement where we might gain some. I was happy on the launch there, building about 8 pounds of boost. It does look like I need to step up my launch RPM a little bit. It's right around 4,600, probably bump that up to about 48, so we're not dropping down so much when we launch. A problem though is if you follow that red line over, that's the boost pressure, and that's dropping significantly, like to 0 boost on our shifts. And the problem with that is I have the no lift shift actuated or activated on this watt box, and the problem is that actually it's not a rev limiter. It actually cuts the ignition for 0.2 of a second, and I don't know exactly if the computer's also closing a throttle blade at that, but I'm losing boost, and so it takes several tenths of a second to get back up. So I think I'm going to turn that off, and if I just do flat out power shifts, I should be able to pick up a bit on the time there just from making that change there. So definitely data logging kind of has some nice features to it. Also, you can see where the AFR is leaning out there on the shifts, and that's probably from the ignition cut and maybe even the throttle blade closing. So definitely some changes to be made. Gonna get some skinny tires for the front, and that should help it out too. So yeah, it's pretty happy with it. There's always how much money you want to spend to make it go faster. But yeah, I'm gonna get this switched back over to street setup, start working on some other projects, and then get some more prep done, because come the end of September, we're going down the duct tape drags, driving this down to Tucson, Arizona, loading the thing up with all sorts of goodies, tools and all that stuff. Never know what you need to work on. So I think that's it for this video. There'll be more come along, maybe actually get over to this gold truck and start working on that. So hope you guys enjoyed. Remember to like and subscribe, comment, and let me know what you think.